Hello, I'm Caroline Marshall, and welcome to Bump to Business Owner, the podcast speaking to mums in business, you. I'll be in conversation with some of the most inspiring women and mothers in enterprise about their journey, how they created their successful businesses alongside raising their children, and what that looks like in work and family life. Hello and welcome to Bump to Business Owner. I'm your host, Caroline Marshall, and welcome back to my special mini-series focused on everything virtual assistant agency running, and relevant to also I think this is relevant to any business owner in all fairness, but especially my B2B friends, my service-based businesses. We can all learn from each other, and today I am talking about onboarding. This is my area of geek. My special geek subject if I was on Mastermind and we want to talk all things about onboarding. It is so much my geek place. They made a whole role when I was an employed, but today I had a wisdom tooth taken out this week. So I am actually struggling to talk, but here I am, showing up ready to record a podcast because I love onboarding. So if I'm sounding funny today, please bear with me. I'm having one of those struggling to talk weeks because wisdom teeth. I think the dentist was weirdly proud of what a good job she did. No, she shouldn't be weirdly proud. She's a dentist. That's a special area. She was very proud of her work, which I applaud her for. She did a great job because the tooth was massive. So massive that I brought it home to show my kids, boy mum. And my son thought it was a crocodile tooth, so that's how big it was. So it's really validating how I'm feeling this week, alongside a whole host of other things. It has been one of those weeks in the business, and I think solidarity out there to us who show up and lead businesses, and it's not all sunshine and roses and flexibility, and I always keen to highlight that. I wonder if I'm sometimes too honest, but I like to be honest and authentic, and there's always things that make you question if you've been your best self, and if you've done the right thing for everyone. And I think that's part of being a business owner, is making those decisions. But that is not what my podcast is here for today. It's about onboarding, which I love, so I'm going to crack on with that. And as I was saying, back when I was at an employed agency, they made a whole role for this where I focused on client onboarding. Whenever I talk about onboarding, it does kind of light me up, and I think that it probably leads to the first point, is that onboarding can be so easy practically, because if you have a process, and I'm going to probably have this on my gravestone, have a process for everything. I don't go to the extreme though, where, I do follow some people on social media where they have a process for everything in their personal life. Maybe I would if I wasn't a mum of 2 little boys right now, and I don't know. But no, I don't have a process for everything. But you are not going to be successful with onboarding clients, onboarding team, unless you have a really thorough process that also thinks about every eventuality. There are going to be things that go wrong, things that are so key in the onboarding part for you and for the client. And things that are key for you will be things like making sure you get paid up front. Most of us live by that in the service world. Things that are key for the client is that they know what's going on. They're trusting you with their money, and this is everything. This is the first impression you've got to give. Make it a good one. And I approach the same with my team as well. We have a really thorough team process as well. Our onboarding process will cover everything in the initial period. So this leads me on to that the onboarding isn't just when your client starts, it's also how you handle them in the for us, it's the first 3 months. It will be different for all clients and based on what your contract is with them and everything. But we really see that as the initial period, because it is their getting to know us, we're getting to know them. And we need a process for that. So what's our check-in rhythm? And it will include everything. Has someone made an introduction kindly for it? So do we need to thank them for it? Every sale we make, I make a donation to Chicken Shed Theatre Trust, which is our local inclusive theatre. And so that's part of the process, because otherwise how would I remember to do that for every sale? And I think it's remembering, whether you onboard clients once a year, once a month, once a week, however busy your business is, it's remembering you're not going to remember every step and every way. So write down that process. And then from there, I am sure, I have no doubt, many of you have come on to listen to me talk about tech, talk about automation, talk about all of that. But the truth is, you are not going to get any of that unless you've written down your process, and then you can go to the tech. So for us, we've been running our onboarding process through ClickUp, and we're currently moving to Notion because we've realized I love ClickUp. It is amazing, but we don't have the huge in-depth project management that ClickUp is built for. We needed something a lot simpler, and also something that takes us through the entire entire team member journey. So we've chosen to move to Notion, and also started to then build the automation. But we have done it very slowly on the automation part intentionally. And this leads me on to my second point, because this is my belief about onboarding. It should be easier for the person being onboarded than it is for you. And this is where a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of sales, a lot of tech goes wrong. It advertises as easier for you. Go back to the episode where I talked about my costly business mistake where I invested some money in a software. The whole point of this software was it was always talking about how it would make my life easier. And for me, it's not about, at first, it is in time. At first, it's not about making mine or my team's life easier. It's about making the client's life easier. What can we do to support them? What can we do to personalize it for them? And it will be different because you might be selling a service where there is a set format. You might be selling something that's a day, a power hour, something that is very set and not a long retainer. Whereas something like ours, we can be working with our clients for years and years. And we could be working with quite large clients that might have things on their side going on, like PO numbers, which are a pain. And we might be dealing with, procurement, finance, negotiations on contracts, things like that. And that's the reality of it as a B2B service-based business, is that it's not a set process, because we've got to treat each client for, that their differences. So that's my second point, is I think sometimes business owners get this wrong of trying to make everything easier for them and thinking everyone else is doing that as well. And it's always got to be about the client experience, the team member experience. How can you set them up for success? And that's why I'm very passionate about onboarding. And it really is, it's everything from when you meet the client, the sale goes into that, once you've made the sale, and then when you're comfortable that they are, I'm talking very specifically here, so it could be different for all your services, but I'm talking from someone who sells retained services and sells that long-term relationship. We see it as, if you're going to have a churn with a client, and I've seen this as a pain point in another virtual assistant agency, it's normally within those first 3 months, and a churn because they're unhappy. I'm talking about, you will get churn in a business, that's the way of life. But it's making sure how you can keep them happy in the long term, and you really need to get to know each other. And to start that is a process for that. You can't keep it all in your head. Having a set process for check-ins, a set format that does work for you and works for the client as well. So a thorough process, making it easier for them, and finding out, what is your onboarding period? What does that look like? And I'm going to throw in a cheeky last one as well. And like with anything, as I run a virtual assistant business and a people business, you should be looking at this process as, okay, how can I get out of it? And trust me, I'm always trying to get out of my client onboarding process. I don't run the process, and I haven't run the process for a very long time. There are elements, there are bits that still sit with me, and there are things I need to keep on top of, making sure if payments are made and check-ins and things like that, and supporting the relationship is still very much my job. Running that process hasn't been with me for a very long time, and that's because it's been so detailed, and we've been able to constantly review it because there's been other people in it. And actually recently we went through a period of change where I've talked about that we're moving software, but we've also had loads of people come on the team, and we had new pairs of eyes in order to move software. My fabulous Notion lady Lou had to come in and look at the processes, as well as Charlotte, my ops assistant, and they'd be like, this doesn't make sense. And it turned out me and the other team member who are running it, Nicola, were just so used to the process. So even bits, it was okay, schedule time to readdress when you look at these processes. So it might be once a year, might be twice a year. Don't overkill it. But at a time you can really be okay, if I wasn't running this process, would this make sense? And I think that is always really key as well, because there are times where I've been on holiday and clients need to start, and they want to start, the VA's ready to start, and I don't want to get involved on that higher level of supporting them step by step because I'm on holiday. So always approach this with your processes as well. If you're going down this route of a team, of an agency, is that you don't want to. You may be at first excited about your business and be like, oh, I'm happy to do this on holiday. But the reality is your kids might not be and you might want to take that time off. So always look at it from stepping back. And I'm going to touch on this now just as a final point for this little mini episode on onboarding, is that offboarding is just as important, if not more, maybe, because that's creating a legacy. So always plan for that. You will be offboarding clients at some point. No one stays with the same service forever. Or some people do, but not all your clients will stay with the same service forever. And so having a really amazing offboarding process is just as important. So I encourage you, building that onboarding process, build the offboarding one at the same time. Thank you so much for listening today. I am including this in a mini checklist for you to think about, to consider with your onboarding. And remember, email templates, a process, and then putting the right tech in and people in is key for this, and treat it as one of the most important things in your business. If you enjoyed this, do subscribe, but also go check out and subscribe in order to receive our little helpful handout to go along with this. And tell me, I am clearly very passionate about this. Tell me what you're passionate about in your business, what you'd like to hear more of, or what in the onboarding process you'd love to hear more of from me. Thank you so much for listening to Bump to Business Owner. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. Please do rate, review, follow, or subscribe wherever you're listening. It really helps us to connect with more mums and business owners. You can DM me on @BumpToBusinessOwner on Instagram, and I'll be back next week.